Bunker Hill Community College is inspiring dreams through academic excellence, community engagement, and workforce partnerships. Learn more at bhcc.edu.
Hurricane Melissa has hit Jamaica as a Category 5 hurricane, the strongest in the island's history. We're here with Victoria Samuels, who is a sports reporter, to give us the latest on the ground in Kingston. Victoria, how are you doing?
Yes, Paris. I'm doing well. I'm really blessed, and me and my family in general, we are just very blessed. We're in Kingston, so we didn't see the direct impact of Hurricane Melissa, which we were anticipating that because prior to this, that's what the graphs were showing, and that's what the news was saying. And at the last minute, it shifted to the western side of the island, where we are now seeing a widespread devastation, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. So luckily for us in Kingston, we're going to be okay, but unlucky for the other side of the island.
And give us a little more detail about exactly what that damage was.
Yeah, so those hardest hit areas were Black River, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, and many people are familiar with Montego Bay. That's the second largest city in the island, and it's also a large commercial hub, and that's the airport tourists fly into is over there in Mobay. And even the airport itself sustained terrible damage to the inside of the terminals, and we are also seeing major damage to rural hospitals and critical infrastructure. So there are videos circulating around social media, and, just from hearing from residents down there, roofs have blown off of hospitals. And that is just really astonishing because if you've gotten injured in this hurricane, where do you go?
Hmm. Yeah, and what is the long-term impact? I mean, obviously, like you said, people know Jamaica as a huge tourist destination, but people like you, your family, and so many others live there year round. So what's the long-term impact here?
I think the hardest and long-term impact of all of this is the side of the island that got hit, the western side. They were just recovering from last year's hurricane. Beryl hit them and devastated that side of the island. So a lot of people were still in rebuilding mode, just getting their feet back on the ground. And now to be slammed again by the strongest hurricane to have ever hit the island, I think is astonishing. And it's really heartbreaking. So you have residents this morning when we woke up here in Kingston, the first thing we did was put our clothes on and we went out. We still don't have power. We haven't had power since 6 a.m. yesterday. And 70% of the island is still without power because crews are waiting to get that all good and all clear from the government to start repairs because it's dangerous out there right now. Our power lines are above the ground. And so when you have down trees and high winds, power lines, they tend to come down. And so I think the government's just waiting to make sure that it's safe for those crews to go out there. And our power company out here, JPS, they had prepared for this. They had brought in over 50 linemen, and those linemen are specifically trained to deal with disaster zones. So they have specific gear, and they came in, and so they're all just waiting. And when it comes to businesses, even driving around Kingston, you see businesses are still boarded up, and it all just comes down to the fact that any infrastructure, even if it's built well, nothing can withstand a Category 5 hurricane.
And talk to me a little bit about, this isn't the first storm that has hit Jamaica. But what has prevented the island from being able, I mean, like you said, no one can withstand a Category 5, but are there things that have prevented the island from being more resilient to such a strong storm?
I I don't think so. I don't think that there's anything. I think, unfortunately, if you look at even Hurricane Harvey when it hit Texas, there's not much you can do in a situation with a Category 5 hurricane other than get ready for it as best as you can, which means evacuating zones that the government says are flood-prone zones and hunkering down the best that you can. And that's just one of those unfortunate situations when it comes to weather, such as a Category 5 hurricane.
How easy was it for people to evacuate?
Um, so personally here in Kingston, we didn't have to evacuate where I live in my area, but I do know the government did a lot to make sure that there were resources for people to evacuate. There were over 800 shelters throughout the island that were open for people in those evacuation zones. And they also partnered with the local transportation, the JUTC, and they were transporting people from areas that should have been evacuated up to those shelters or to higher ground. So there was assistance from the government, and people were able to get out if they really wanted to.
Mm. Now, of course, I imagine there were tourists there. We've seen this on U.S. national news where people weren't able to get out if they had just come to Jamaica for a holiday. What's their status if you know it?
Well, I know as of right now, the airports remain closed, and there's some talk, to my understanding, to be opening airports in the next day or so so that we can accept resources and help. I know that, there's when we talk about relief and response, for the Poor is flying in tomorrow with supplies and relief teams to help. And I also know the American Friends of Jamaica, they launched $1 million relief fund, and they've supported Jamaica now for over 40 years. So I know that the airports will be opening to accept help and relief. I'm not sure when exactly they will open up again for commercial flights. And I think, again, it just has to be with safety. It's not really that we're trying to hold on to tourists and keep them here longer than they have to be. It's we don't want people to be unsafe.
Victoria, I'm thinking about the person who may have a trip planned there in the next few months. Whether or not they can get on a plane and go there, do you think it is the kindest thing to do considering what the island is experiencing right now?
I mean, the honest truth is that tourism is our bread and butter here, and we are going to try to rebuild back as quick as possible. I know that people want to get back to work. It's not that we don't want to work. We want to have an income. We are hardworking people. We're very proud, and we're prideful of, being able to be independent on our own. But I'm not sure as of right now. Maybe I'm assuming by the time the airports open back, at least resorts will be up and running as best as they can. And from what I've seen on social media and what I've heard, resorts have done the best that they can to make sure tourists are safe. You're hearing of tourists having to stay in their hotel rooms, but resorts are making sure to deliver food to them to make sure that they're being taken care of. And there are many people in the hospitality industry that had to stay back at the hotels and stay away from their homes and their families just to make sure that tourists were safe as well.
Wow. And I mean, I think it goes without saying that we hope that everyday Jamaican residents can get, the same kind of help, or at least when the airport opens back up, that will be more accessible to everyone who's been impacted. Um, are you hearing any projections about what the long-term economic impacts could be as the island tries to bounce back?
Yeah, I'm not sure as yet of the economic impact, but I do know that Jamaica has been qualified as a disaster zone. And this is something that is going to affect residents for a very long time. So, the western part of the country is where we have a lot of farms, it's where we have a lot of, agriculture, and we have that's where most of our produce and our just vegetables and fruits come from. So we're going to have to be looking at options of importing fruits and vegetables, and if whatever is left is going to be, priced pretty highly. And so even as residents who weren't as seriously affected from the hurricane, we're going to be feeling it in our pockets as well. And driving around Kingston today, I haven't seen a gas station as yet that's open. I'm assuming there are, but just driving around Kingston, a lot of gas stations are still closed. A lot of businesses are still closed. And that's because people can't leave their homes. Because even on my street, the main road that my house is off of, there were several downed trees and exposed wires. So we're just really waiting and hoping that first responders and government officials can go out there and get it cleaned up as soon as possible so we can get back to building back even stronger than before.
I know that the hurricane touched some other parts of the Caribbean, including Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Cuba is also vulnerable to the impacts of the storm. So, what could be the widespread impact of the storm as it ripples through the Caribbean, whether that's economic or otherwise?
Um, I think the most important thing that we just need to remember is just that people have lost lives, and I think there is a possibility that there will still be loss of life. I mean, there are many people who, at this point, the government said are still trapped in their homes due to flooding. And so we just need to pray and hope that there won't be any more loss of life. And that's an impact that, is one of the worst. Financially, we will recover that money comes and goes, but life is super important. And I think when it comes to just speaking about people in general, we're hoping there's no more loss of life. But when we do talk about economic impact specifically, I think seeing the videos of the hotels was really heartbreaking because, okay, it's a hotel, yes, but that is how a lot of people in those rural communities make money is through tourism, through, hospitality. So, and that's not just in Jamaica, that's in Cuba, that's in the Bahamas, and this hurricane is also on the path to Bermuda. So, a lot of these islands are depending on resources and depending on economic impacts like tourism. So if this is to tear through that, it's going to be really heartbreaking, and it's going to have to be something that we're going to have to figure out alternative ways.
There are millions of people here in the U.S. Who are immigrants from the countries that I and you named, and that includes a large Jamaican population, about 4.5 million immigrants. Are people who have family back home able to get in touch right now at all, or is that still being complicated by the down power lines?
So I know that there is been a lot of communication issues even here during the storm, which is expected. I'm not sure the western side of the parish, but even today I wasn't able to make phone calls on my phone. So I mean, the infrastructure is definitely struggling right now. I think everyone is also on their phones a lot. No one's really at work today, so everyone's trying to make sure, hey, neighbor, are you okay? Hey, coworker, are you okay? So if people aren't able to get to their families, just know that we've been without power. So maybe they've lost battery on their phone. Don't expect the worst. And if you can't hear from your family, just pray and hope that you can hear from them soon. I just think you guys need to remember that we are a very strong country. We are very resilient people, and we have plans to rebuild, and we're coming back bigger and stronger than before.
So lastly, Victoria, obviously in times of disaster, there's a lot to be worried about, but what's bringing you hope right now?
I think what's bringing me hope is knowing that the word is getting out there and knowing that we are getting prayers from people from all over the world. So obviously, if you can't give financially, if you're not able to give, water and food and clothing, we have we have organizations that are trusted, like Food for the Poor, organizations like American Friends for Jamaica and stuff like that. We have American Friends of Jamaica, who they've launched $1 million relief fund. But if you can't give financially and you're not able to give, resources as well, the least you can do, or the least we're asking, is for a prayer. And we've been receiving a lot of it, and we hope to continue getting that as well.
Well, Victoria, we are praying for you here at Rooted, and please keep us posted on how things go.
Thank you so much, Paris. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take great care.
We're proud to partner with Bunker Hill Community College, powering Boston's future workforce through access, equity, and innovation in higher education. Thank you for supporting Rooted and the future of public media. Click the link in the description or visit bhcc.edu to learn more.